Hi, I'm Linda. Welcome back. Today I finished up a snow scene for you. Woodsy, way back in the woods with a stream and a pretty sunset glowing in the background. It was a lot of fun to paint, and I hope you get your paints out and follow me. You're gonna love it. So let's get started. And here are the oil paints I used. Liquid clear, liquid white, and a blue shop towels, titanium white, lamp black, phthalo blue, Van Dyke brown, burnt sienna, Indian red or red ochre, violet, orange, cad yellow pale hue, and brilliant red. So now I'm preparing my canvas. I've got a 16 by 20. I'm going to put liquid clear from top to bottom. I've got a little 1 inch there, and I'm going to coat a nice even coat all the way down. Just spread it as evenly as you can, because you don't want to have too much because your paint tends to run. So I'm taking a blue shop towel, I folded it in half and half again, and I'm taking off all the extra oil. Just make sure you have most of that off. All right, so now I'm going to make a real nice light gray blue, and I've taken phthalo blue with a touch of black, and it's a touch of phthalo, touch of black, and a little bit of white. Mix that up to get this blue gray. It's real pretty. I want just a very light blue gray sky. And if you think you've got it too dark in places, just add a little extra white. Little X strokes, blending. It doesn't matter. There's no set pattern. We'll be making some clouds here. But I'm probably going to go not quite halfway down. So now I'm putting a little extra white right, right above the halfway mark. That's where the glowing uh, sunset's going to be. So I want it really light there. So I'm going into a little bit of orange and a touch of red. I mixed it up and I'm making kind of a uh, reddish orange. I want it really not quite red, not quite really orange. I just wanted a nice bright orange there. Taking a dry brush, I'm going around the edges, soften that up. I always tap my brush into a towel so don't have a lot on there. Okay, so I'm taking with my finger a little extra of that bright orange color. Just doing little circular motions, making a nice round sun. Taking another dry brush, going around the edges, and just softening that up. I'm going to take on my finger the same color, going to go underneath that. Going to be some reflections there. So I'm just buffing that out, smoothing that out. Make sure it's right in line underneath that sun. A little more, you can make it as dark as you want. I wanted mine super, super bright. Shape that sun. So if you think you've got a little too much paint there, I took a piece of that blue shop towel, I put it over the top, rubbed it a little bit, and pulled it off. It takes off the excess. Now with the dry brush, I'm just smoothing it out. And with my finger, I'm going on either side of the bottom part of that, just kind of extending that out a little bit and buffing that out, blending that in. So back on top with the clouds, I'm taking the blue-gray, and it's a little darker than the original background there, and I'm making some cloud lines. So I'm buffing the bottom parts of that line there with a clean, dry brush. So I'm going to be making quite a few of these clouds. So let's take my, I have a little fan brush that I'm just doing little circular motions and just go wherever you think. And you can make this your own. Wherever you think you want some darker clouds, leave the light ones in there and just like I say, there's really not a set pattern, but with mine, I'm going to gradually kind of go upward to the corner of the canvas. You'll see like my clouds are floating up to the left. So with a clean dry brush, I'm going to buff the bottoms of that out. Tapping, I always tap the excess off on some paper there. Tissue, or it's not tissue paper, paper towel. Okay, so I'm going to go underneath a little bit, and I'm gradually going to go up to the left corner, but I'm just putting some dark streaks of dark clouds in. I'm looking at a picture as I go. So if you see me looking to the right there, I'm looking at a picture. Not doing exactly what's on there, but I'm kind of making it my own, you know. I think their clouds are quite busier. And so I'm making mine a little bit less and softer, I think. So I'm just buffing the bottom out. Gonna add another small one off to the right of the sun there. Kind of breaks it up a little bit in there. Got to leave some lighter areas. So I think it makes it a little more realistic. But you can you can make your clouds however you like. Okay, I've got a clean dry. I'm using a fan brush to buff it out. It's a little bit stiffer brushes, bristles. It seems to, I don't know, it blends really good that way. Sometimes there's a few hairs on there, but it works pretty good. It's a bigger fan brush, a little stiffer. And once you blend out into the white you've put down, it'll fade really pretty. You'll have some real pretty clouds in there. Still adding some dark clouds. And buffing the bottom part out. I've got a couple brushes going at the same time, I think. I tend to switch, whatever works good. So now I'm going into the darker gray. I'm gonna put some different level shades of gray from dark to light. So I'm putting a little darkness on the top portion of those clouds. And I'm also adding a little bit of the orange. Very little bit, because that sunlight is very, very strong and it's coming through the top clouds a little bit. So I am putting a little orange and yellow. You assume you put in yellow. And then I go over the top with just a little bit of blue-gray. See how pretty that looks? It's not real sudden. It's like within the cloud. You know it's there. So back into the gray. putting some going up to the top corner. I'm gonna add some white in there too. Different brush, small one. I think it's a number 4. But I'm gonna go underneath that to kind of break it up just a little bit. Cause I don't want totally gray skies. I want different variations of light and darks going on. I've added a little more orange above the top part of the sun. I'm gonna soften it up a little bit with a little bit of white, just blending that in, trying to get some sun rays, but it's kind of tough to do, especially with oils. If I was working with acrylic, I would be able to wait till it dries and add some white, and voila, we've got rays. With oils, it's a little tricky. So I'm just putting some of that orange color within the blue, just softening everything up. I'm going into my yellow, cad yellow and white. And I'm going to add a few yellow uh, ones in there. And with a small fan brush dry, I'm dipped it in a little bit of yellow and white, and I'm putting it in within the sun. And then I'm gonna take a break. This is how I take my break. Sometimes I put a shop towel over the top, and then when I come back, all the oil is kind of taken off, and then I just take a clean, dry, real soft brush, and I'll just go over the top and smooth it out. Still working on my clouds, adding. I stand back and I look, squint, and I see where I think it needs some more for balance and to give it a more realistic look. I tend to have it a little bit darker on the top corners, but we'll be having a bunch of trees that go way up there, so I'm not too worried about putting a lot of clouds there. And I am adding a little bit of violet um, in my blue, just here and there. It just gives it another dimension of color. Adding some white in there, defining the clouds a little bit. Okay, I'm going into my Indian red and a little bit of orange. And I'm proceeding to put some trees right below that sun, right below. I don't want to hide the whole thing, but it's just a little row of distant trees right at the base of that sun. So I'm just carefully tapping in. I think I've got a little filbert there. Just tapping in ever so light. And then underneath, I'll smooth that out. Bring some of that color down a little bit. Bring it off to the side, both sides. Because that background orange will come through the trees. Putting a bit more orange below the center line there. It's going to be some orange in my stream that I'll be putting in. I'll have some water there, so I want a little bit of that orange So now I'm going to make my trees, and I'm going into Van Dyke Brown and just tap into my Indian Red just a little bit here and there. And I'm going to start making background trees. As I come forward, I'm getting darker. So I'm just going to put in a row of trees. And I am using, it's a little scruffy brush, and it's a Donna Dewberry. She has her own website, and it's called a scruffy brush. I bought it a long time ago, but since then I did buy a new one. They're still available. They don't cost very much, but boy oh boy, they make some really nice background trees. And that's a 3/4 inch scruffy. So I'm gonna pull in some more orange underneath that row of trees. Very light. Got my scruffy again. I'm gonna tap it in Van Dyke Brown with a little bit of that Indian Red. Little bit, because I want it kind of a reddish brown. And I'm gonna tap in another cluster of trees. And leave some of those darks in there, and leave some of the oranges show too, because that gives it depth. And from a distance, it looks like there's fall colors back there coming through the bare trees. And then if I hold my scruffy to the side, I can angle my landscape up. This is just different variations of that brush that works for me. I'm tapping my landscape. There's going to be a hill going up higher on the left side, going into my orange now. I'm going to start forming where my stream is going to be. It's going to start kind of off to the side, off the corner there. And then I'm looking at my picture. I'm going to arch it around, and it's going to end up right on the bottom right corner. Just right above that corner. So now I'm just shaping how I want my snow, how the angles of the landscape is. Gonna be a lot of trees in there, so. And then at the bottom, it's probably pretty much center is where I'm gonna end that um, stream. It's gonna be wider on the bottom, and it curls around. It's gonna be fairly narrow. Now I'm going into the Indian Red, touch of orange. I'm making like 3 different shades. One lighter orange, just a red, and one darker. And then the normal Indian Red. I love that color. It's just a beautiful uh, reddish brown. So I'm making my trees now on the right, just tapping with a 1 inch very, very lightly. I want to get those bristles on the end of that brush to leave some nice, um, top treetops. You don't want to press very hard. Just tap your brush in the paint and then just tap it on the canvas. And then you can turn it to the side and make it go straight. You can go across with your, where the landscape ends and where the snow starts. So I'm going to go pretty much almost to the top of that canvas. So now I'm going to go into a little bit darker Well, actually, I'm still in the same color. I'm gonna go on the other side. And that will go to the top. And because I got a little bit of a, what should I say? The trees are gonna hang over on the top. Excuse me. So I want just a little bit of a, um, some trees to hang over on the top a little bit. And then I'll just angle down to the bottom there where the trees end and the snow will start. So I'm tapping into the Indian red. I'm even tapping in a little bit of lighter color too. It's just variation shades of this Indian red, light and dark. And I am going into dark now, and I'm just putting some darker ones in there. Going to the bottom of that tree line there, putting a little darkness on the other side a little bit. Leave some of that red showing though. Don't cover it totally up. I'm going into the lighter orange with a little touch of brilliant red and orange. I'm going to get a 1 inch there. I'm tapping in those two colors and I'm going to put in some pretty treetops, orange treetops. Just barely tap. Make sure your paint's not real thick because it just won't stick. Got to have it a little bit um, loose. It's not soupy, but just softer. So when you touch real light, it will stick. It will stick to your first layer of paint. Okay, now I'm going to red, a little more red, and it will show up. It's just different layers of red and orange, and I will even add a little bit of yellow in there. Okay, so now I'm going to start working on um, the base of those trees, the landscape. I've got a fan brush and I'm going into a very, very dark black and Van Dyke brown. I'm pushing up, so I'm creating uh, some bushes back there. You can scratch down or whatever. See how pretty that looks? When I highlight those, it'll really make them pop. All right, so I've got a little liner brush, script liner, and I'm putting in some distant trees right in the center part. Just not very big around. They're very slim, slender little trees. And I work my way up, and you will make them a little bit taller, but those are the background trees there. We'll be making more as we come forward, and those will come uh, up to the skyline there. So I'm just going ahead and making some little trees in there, nice straight black trees. Okay, I've got a little bit of Van Dyke brown and white. Actually, I want to put a little color, just a little color um, underneath what's going to be we're putting white snow on top. But I don't want totally solid white. I want a little bit of darkness coming through. So I did that on the sides. Now I've got a little fan brush and I'm going into straight orange and yellow. I'm creating where that stream is going to curve and end back there. And had made my way forward with the orange. And now I'm taking a small brush. I'm putting in um, kind of like the shoreline there. some darkness in there. That's going to be a lot of rocks in there. So, and the very bottom corner is going to be dark rocks too. So that's going to be fairly dark. But I'll continue to bring my orange around the bend because that sunlight's going to hit. I'm putting in some dark in the corner. These are all base colors. So once the snow is on, parts of these colors will show through. I've got a little bit of that blue-gray. I'm going pretty close to the shoreline there because the water is bumping up next to those going to be rocks. I'm just kind of working my way down and around. I've got some orange and red. Mixed a little bit of red in that orange. And I see a spot that I wanted to fix. I wanted a little more orange nuts right above there. I'm just tapping in there after I put a spot of, see, I just bringing that orange up a little bit in there. Thought it needed a little more sunlight there. So I'm putting some white, got white on my fan brush. I'm just putting a little white, little clouds in there, just to kind of break up that solidness. Okay. Back into the white. We're going to get brave and do our snow. So I'm loading up a 1 inch there. And that paint there is fairly thick. It's not super, super thin. So I'm just pulling it in and out to the edge. And see some of that darkness of some of the brown is actually kind of coming through a little bit. Okay, I'm going to start the other side this time. Come around and dip. See, I've got a little hill there. And can't do that too many times. You need to wipe off. On the other side, just turn my brush, turn. See how that makes that nice crisp edge there against the background trees? And then I'll just keep going forward. I'm going to be making that pretty good slope. And down in the bottom, and I'm going to have a cluster of big old boulders. So I changed the angle in the back there a little bit. Now's the time if you want a hill or two, that's what you do. Got a little fan brush, and I'm just scratching in some distant bushes back there. Just ever so, they're small, but they're in the distance. Gotta have a little snow back there and little, snow-covered bushes. All right, so I kind of messed up on my shoreline with that white, so I took a small brush with some brown on it, kind of angle it around. But I'm still working on the back, getting some white bushes back there, some trees, and I decided to use my palette knife, kind of like putting snow on a mountain where it breaks off a little bit. I thought I could try this and see how that works. I didn't have the best of luck. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You need the right amount of paint on, nice roll on your palette knife. Actually, it takes quite a bit. And then, see, sometimes it works, and you can straighten all that out with a small brush. Soften it up with a soft brush. It looks kind of rough right now, but I'm going to keep going because the snow is sometimes it's perfectly smooth, and other times when you have a lot of trees, There's a lot of bumps and things in there, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And just pulling down, it leaves, with the palette knife, it leaves, some rough edges, and that's all right. You can, if I would use the brush, it would be totally, totally smooth. But I wanted to have a little bit of texture. So I'm taking a soft brush that I have. It's a real soft one. I'm just kind of, softening some of those harder edges. But like I said, there's going to be a lot of trees there, so going to be a lot of brush. There's another soft brush I use. It's very natural hair and it's very soft. All right, so now I am gonna start my trees and I'm gonna do some small, work my way forward, and they are gonna be a little bit thicker. So these trees are not gonna go all the way to the top just yet. So I'm putting those in and adding some little arms or little branches. Got one. That one does just goes up to the sky a little bit there, but then the one that I'm going to put next to it will go right to the top. So some of your branches you'll be able to see them once against the sky there. It's going to be really neat. All right, so I'm working my way to the center. Some of those trees aren't very thick, but I like to get my branches on right away. And I've got a little bit of that pretty gray blue, and I'm putting some on the ground there in the snow. It's a little bit of a darker area. Gotta have that, um, little light, little dark. And the deeper snow cuts, they are shadows, they're shadows. So we want to make sure those shadows are still in there. I did mark where I'm going to put my tree. Going into the white. I'm going to kind of put some more in the back, kind of rough up the landscape a little bit, push up. You kind of see some little twigs and things, little grassies, because I don't want it real super smooth. I will be adding a little bit more color in the back. I'm gonna put in a few stones way in the distance, just little dots here and there, with the end of a script liner. Just yeah, little stones. And I'm gonna have a little bush, little orange bush alongside of the base of the one tree on the outside there. Because the sun, there is a little bit of sun reflection in there coming through the trees. Just tapping. I've got a little bit of orange on that. I got a kind of a gnarly fan brush that I really thinned out. And it worked kind of nice for little twigs and little things. So I like to kind of finish one area as I move forward. The back So I want to make sure they're in before I put the trees in, some of that background stuff. It really helps, and you're not going between painting in between the trees. Okay, this tree is going to go all the way to the top, and I'll make it a little thicker as I go, but right now I'm just concentrating on getting a nice straight line all the way up. And if I'm happy with the thickness of the tree, I'll start putting some limbs and arms. Well, I'm still working on the top on that one. I'll start putting some arms in, and they're going to reach upward. Some will be out from the sides, but most of them are going to be going upward. And after a while, I'll put some snow on the branches. Kind of see in the back there, I started just for fun. I did the side of that one tree there, a couple of them. It's going to be really pretty. All right, so I'm working on thickness there, putting in another little tree. That one's going to come up, probably into the sky, probably a little above the halfway. Once I'm happy with the thickness of that tree, then I'll start putting in my little arms and limbs. It does help to get up and stand back, study it if you're going off of a picture, and you can always change that. You don't have to paint it exactly that. Just make it your own. Like I'm doing here. I'm kind of following a little bit of the balance, the way they put things down on canvas, you know, and that helps. That helps. But as far as anything else, color, texture, you can pretty much make it your own. I really I don't copy, you know, stroke by stroke. That's pretty much impossible. Just make it your own. Happy accidents. Okay, so I'm still putting little arms. I made another little tree there. Those along the bank are really uh, small. I mean, they come up maybe a little bit just at the base of that sun, but not much any higher. I'm putting some more texture in the snow, kind of getting it set up for my trees that are going to be going in there. All right, got a little bit of orange touching the back, way in the back. Going around some of the trees, base of the trees. Okay, I'm adding a little more texture white to the snowbank. Going to put in a little tree right along the edge, way in back. Ever so light. Yeah, those trees are very small back there. Okay, that one, they're going to keep getting uh, taller and taller as we come forward. Trying to figure out where I want where I want them to end, or how thick I want them. I think the picture I'm looking at had way more trees than what I even have in mind. I didn't want to clutter it too much, adding a little darkness in spots. All right, putting in some more, excuse me, little brushy things, going into white, flicking in some grassies. If you push your brush downward, you get some little, they're not really scratches. They're just the bristles pick up and it makes nice little grasses. But whatever works. Sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it does. So just I gotta flick the fan brush upward most of the time. So now I am trying to perfect my stream, adding some more orange in there, reflection from that sun, using my finger a lot, going into a little bit of the brown, and I'm going to start going around at the base of some of those trees, pushing downward a little bit, ever so light, because this, um, you need to have some darkness in there. No forest, it's not totally smooth. You're going to have rocks and twigs and this and that all over the place. So right now I've got a real small fan brush. I am making what looks like a little Christmas tree back there. It's a little evergreen. I think I am using my smallest script liner. Just dotting in there, shaping this little background tree. And then I'm gonna put little dots of snow on the branches. So I'm making two of them. One's a little taller. Second one's a little bit taller, but they're shaped, like an evergreen. And just dark brown. And then when I put the white on there, it looks like snow is on the limbs, on the boughs, I should say. Just dotting little bits of snow. Okay, I'm gonna try and perfect some of my I'll put some rocks in there way in the distance, some little stones, and that's with a little liner brush. Um, paint thinned a little bit, the brown and black. And then I'm still etching in that uh, floor line there a little bit. There's gonna be some stones in there and dirt, it's gonna look like dirt. But try and make it as realistic as I can. And holding my brush kind of a sideways, just, going back and forth a little bit, up and down. I can dot in my stones. No real pattern. Just gonna look rocky. And, and it's not a straight line. It's kind of zigzaggy because the water's coming in a little bit. In this back corner, I'm gonna have a bunch of rocks. That corner is going to end up being fairly dark with, limbs and brush on that corner. So in the meanwhile, I'm just putting in little rocks, little stones, and then I'll go back and I'll tip just a little bit on the tops. I'll put a little bit of white snow just on the tips. And then I put a little bit of orange in that bend. And then I went back and took a little white, very little, and just went across it. And it just fades it out. It's just enough to see that orange in there, orange reflection. And if you stand back and think you need a little more orange, you can tip a little more orange in there. Okay, I've got a nice little roll. I'm going to try an edge, put a little wave action in the water. And it's not straight across. It's kind of at an angle coming around the bend. So you want to make sure, it's not straight across. And I did add a little bit of that light blue, very light, smoothing that out because there's water there. Put a little darker blue in the very bottom. Still adding stones. I kind of jump around a little bit, but I want to make sure my background is done in layers. I am adding another big tree there. It's not big, big, but that one's going to go up above the sun. Not on top, but going to go alongside. You don't want to cover that up. Oh, yeah, there you go. And there I go. Putting little arms, little branches, very light touches. My liner scripts are very thin, the hairs are thin, so I can get that nice fine line for distant branches. If you're making a tree that's closer, yeah, then you'll need a little thicker one. But for these background trees, you want them real light. So I'll be putting snow on some of those yet too. All right, so I'm gonna make another one here in front. This one probably will be a little bit thicker. Right now I'm just making sure it's nice and straight. One more tree next, about an inch away from the edge of the canvas. That one's going to be a little bit, the two in the front there, they're going to be about the same circumference. It's just a little bit thicker. Those will go, the one will go way on top, and then I'll gradually step down from the top. little bit of Van Dyke brown there. Just working on the thickness. I know it's tedious, but that paint is not that thick. I did thin it out a little bit, but it's not watery either because you don't want it running down your canvas. See how the trees are just kind of stepping down little by little, the height. Okay, I'm just putting a little texture, little blue in there, a little shadow colors, the blue, anywhere where I think the shadows are. I'm going to add a little bit of blue. And that front corner is at an angle. It's, yep, 'cause that's a hill. That's a big old hill. Putting in some streaks of white off and on here in between the blue. Still working on some stones. I kind of went over it with my glue, kind of bringing them up to the surface a little bit. Putting a little more white at the base, a little more blue. I'm adding a little bit of violet too. And violet adds a lot. Nice shade color, shadow. Putting in some in the corner too. Little violet and blue. All right, still adding some bushes between the trees. I could have done that before, but I didn't have I don't know, foresight, I guess. I just realized I need a little more going on between the background. So, take a really small brush and it can be done. Just put them in there around the bases of those trees. Okay, I'm going to put some bushes along the edge of the canvas. Notice that pattern? It's just tapping some bushes in there. Gonna add some more orange reflections back in the distance on the floor of the forest there by the trees. See, there's a little color back there, not much, but just a little bit. As you come forward, there won't be as much. Adding some stones, big old stones. Black, touch of Van Dyke brown. I'm using a little round brush, and it's got a very short end on it. Very tight brush, bristles, you know. I use that one for my popple and birch tree leaves. Boy, that makes the nicest leaves. But that also does a nice job on simple, distant boulders, round rocks. All you do is just press it down a little bit, and that's it. I'm perfecting my water in the distance, putting a little bit of weight in there, a little movement in the water. Now I'm got a small brush. I'm just tipping some of my boulders with white, just a little bit. The snow, the snow is on top of them, so I want to make sure they have a little bit of snow on them. And I'm going to put in a couple of down trees right there where they fell down. I might put one or two in there. Got a little liner brush, and then I'm going to put a small row of snow on it on the top, like it's a down tree fell down. Adding some more blue shadows. A slant in the hill there. Maybe water running down there. I don't know. I took you don't see it now, but my palette knife, that's what I did my rocks with against that bank. Put a little roll of black on my palette knife and just wipe down in a couple places, and there it is. Beautiful. I'm going to be putting some more, so you'll see how I did it. I didn't do the traditional boulder round, rock. I just did a swipe. It works. Putting in some small stones. Still working on the border on the shoreline there. Pretty snowy, but still have some dark rocks that are showing through. I want to make sure they're exposed, and they need to be dark so you can see them. Not a lot of snow on them. More rocks in the corner. Can't see me making them, but there we go. Yeah, it's tedious. Okay. Still working on, oh, I don't know if that's a piece of wood laying in there or what, or if it's land coming through, but, got my palette knife there. I'm putting a little extra water in there. All right, here's how I made my boulders sticking out of the snowbank. It's just a palette knife, no big deal. I got lazy. I didn't want to make big boulders, so I thought, well, I'm gonna do this. I think it'll work. I'll put a little snow on top of those and call it done. And there's some more peeking through. There, just a little swipe of snow on them. Nothing fancy. Just make sure your paint on your palette knife is not thick. You want a nice soft roll. and it should just roll right on there. I always wipe my palette knife off though on a piece of tissue paper there, because some of that black will come off on your palette knife. You don't want to contaminate the white. So I even go over the top with or underneath at the base of those rocks, just a little bit of white. All right, so now I'm going to put some snow on the trunks of these trees. And I've got a little brush, uh, short little fan, a little tiny little fan brush, and I tapped it in white, titanium white, with a little bit of liquid white. Mix that up so it's very, very soft. And I just dip my tip of my brush in there, and I'm just touching ever so light, just touching. See how pretty that looks? It's coming off. So I don't want a straight line. I could have just went right down and did a straight line, but I want to just tap them in. It looks a lot more realistic tapping it in. Some people use a palette knife, and I've tried that, but I these trees are so small, and so are the little limbs, the arms. I'm tapping in a little extra snow that's gathered next to the trunk and onto the little arms. See how pretty that looks? And I'll just go on to do all the other trees. Tap on some snow on the limbs. And go up those little arms coming out. It's so pretty. Coming up, that's against the orange reflections in the sky and trees. Got a little liner. I think I'm perfecting that arm a little bit. Okay. Putting some snow on it. Isn't that cool? I love that. Oh, I've had fun with this one. I still have to put some extra little leaves, not very many, just a few touches. I've got my scruffy going into the burnt orange and a little bit of brown. I'm just going to tap the ends of a few little branches, not much, just a few, because I don't want this to overpower um, everything else. It's very, very light strokes, touches on some of these limbs that are sticking out there, just here and there. Boy, I love doing this one. I almost see a finished painting here. So much fun. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you do too. So if you have any problems, have questions, send me a message. But until then, happy painting and God bless.